What is up, everybody? Welcome into another Friday afternoon live stream, week 6 edition, fresh off of another really fun Thursday night game. So, welcome in, everybody. Welcome. As always, this is just a straight AMA. Just ask anything, and we'll run through it. Hopefully, the internet situation is at a minimum this week. Although, to anybody who's been following the internet situation for the past couple weeks, I will be getting new internet tomorrow. Couldn't get it before today, but it's coming tomorrow. So hopefully that makes a difference. All right. We already got questions. We got questions for sure. Everybody's already in the chat. So Seth has 2 questions. My team should be contending, but I'm in 8th place out of 12. Top 6 made the playoffs. I have the 5th most points for, 2nd most points against. Does that mean I have just been incredibly unlucky? It certainly sounds like it. The 2nd most points against is a really rough place to be. It just means that, it seems like every single time that you play a matchup that team just kind of goes off. I lean more towards you being a playoff team because you are 5th in points for. And there's still plenty of time. You have probably about 10 weeks here, I think, 9-10 weeks to make up some ground and get back into that into the playoff hunt. So you're probably not going to end up with a bye week, which is unfortunate. Bye weeks are really, really strong for playoffs, especially for Dynasty. You get that, you just miss that 1 week, and then it kicks you right into the semis. But if you make the playoffs, it's anybody's game. You just have to make the dance, and then you can see what happens. So I still think that you are probably a playoff team based on the fact that you're 5th most points for. And you've just been really unlucky with the 2nd most points against. So hopefully that kind of course corrects a little bit and it starts flip-flopping the other way. Maybe you string together a few wins here in October, and maybe, you might be 2-3 right now, and maybe by the end of October, you're 6-3 or something like that. So I would just keep going, see what happens. Maybe by the end of the month, if you're still out of the playoff hunt, then you can maybe make some moves for 2025. But I'd probably stay the course and see if you can pick up a few wins throughout October. My other question is, would you trade Kelsey, Addison, and Dobbs for Ferguson, Chase Brown, and Alec Pierce, or other suggestions for moving Addison, trying to move him, but not much interest? Yeah, Addison is probably the best dynasty asset in this deal. I don't really have all that much interest in Chase Brown. I 100% do not have interest in Alec Pierce. I'd probably take Dobbs over Alec Pierce if Dobbs would screw his head on correctly and not be a diva about not getting playing time and stuff, because he's Romeo Dobbs. He's like the 4th best player on that team. Anyway, Kelsey to Ferguson is fine. Kelsey is scoring points right now, so that's at least nice with Rashee Rice out. I'm fine with moving Addison. I just don't think this is the way to do it. So no, I would not make this deal. I would keep Kelsey, Addison, and Dobbs and move forward with those 3 and see what else you could try to do. Yambag, yes sir, happy Friday. Need bottom of the barrel suggestions for tight end. Kelsey, Hawk, Parkinson are all on buys. Oof. As in like picking them up off of the waiver wire for redraft. Is that what we're looking at, Yambaggy? The login. I'm pulling up 4for4's the weekly rankings from John Paulson. Who made that DLF counter? The the intro video? I made that. I made the intro video. If that's what you're talking about, Bruce. Back to Ian Baggy with the bottom of the barrel tight end suggestions. Oh yeah, so that Cade Otton might be an interesting one. He gets a really good matchup against the Saints this week. He's been fairly consistent over the past few weeks as well. I already have him plugged in on my DraftKings lineup just to save some space, like some money. But over the past couple of weeks, he had 3 for 44 last week, 6 for 52 against Philly, 7 for 47 against Denver. So Cade Otton might be an interesting one if you could pick him up. Cole Kmet is in here. Juwan Johnson in the reverse aspect, maybe if he can become a big target for Spencer Rattler, that could be interesting. Um, Josh Weil, if you want a touchdown, go for Josh Weil. I'm calling it right now. Touchdown for Josh Weil. That'd be crazy if he did. Theo Johnson maybe could be another interesting one too, if assuming Evan Ingram is out. So I will hopefully those names. I don't know if those names helped at all, Gambaggy, but K Dotton I think is like my number one. Like if you're just looking for a streamer this week with Kelsey on bye or whoever else, go and try and see if you can pick up K Dotton and redraft. Peter, happy Friday, my man. I'm 2-3 and towards the bottom of points for, but I don't know if blowing it up makes sense because it's mostly young team. We've got Stroud Daniels. Yeah, so you have a really strong young team. Strong team in terms of we have here for the memes. I'll get you after this. I'm sorry, man. I just missed your super chat. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily blow it up. Like Nico, you can definitely take in the next year. It's gonna be nice that he won't give you production over the next couple of weeks, so you'll probably go on a losing skid so that you could try to get a higher draft pick. So that's nice for Nico. Stroud and Daniels, I think you just got to keep both of them. If you want to trade one of them because it's a one quarterback, then you could explore that too. Um, I think what I'd like to do is try with your team is just how can you navigate improving your wide receiver room while people are like looking for production. So like people are looking for production from Deontay Johnson. Um, maybe you could try to flip Michael Pittman because he's been producing a little better with Joe Flacco. Um, maybe you can flip T Higgins. I don't know, but like, can you go out and can you buy Rashee Rice for any of those wide receivers? Can you still buy low on Puka Nacua? Can you gain some extra? I don't know, want to say gain some extra draft capital, but like I think there could be moves to be had depending on what the rest of your league looks like. I think I think buying Rashee Rice, I've seen some wild Rashee Rice trades and some wild questions have been asked to me about should I trade Rashee Rice for this because I got offered it and I'm like, absolutely not. But they're considering it because they're contending. So don't know if Rashee Rice is in a contender spot for you on in your league. But if I were you, Kareem Hunt would be gone this week. I think you just have to hold on to ETN right now. Hope the situation changes. You could probably hold on to Bijan because he has a really good matchup this week. Maybe he comes back up. Then you can flip Bijan for a top guy at the wide receiver spot. I think you just kind of ride this out until next year. And if you can make some small upgrades along the way because people are getting injured or anything like that, then you could do that. But I think this team just wasn't for you for this year, unfortunately. But that's it's unfortunate, but I think that's where you got to be, Peter, because I don't see anything here that's wrong for long term minus Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt should be sold. All right, here for the memes with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much, my man. I went and traded Rice, was given Trevor and what will be the 25-201 for Rashee Rice. Super flex with Lamar and Brock going for the belt. Had no 25 picks and no quarterbacks. I don't hate this one because at least you got a quarterback back. And I've seen, like, when I say that I've seen some wild trade considerations for Rashee Rice. Like I answered a comment literally like 10 minutes ago that was like, should I trade Rashee Rice for Keon Coleman and Bucky Irving? And I'm like, God, no. And then they're like, should I trade Rice and add a couple firsts and go over and get like Breece Hall and Wandale? And I'm like, God, no, do not do that with Rashee Rice. If you are a contender and you lost Rice, you lost Nico, your first thought, I understand why the first thought would be, how can I move that guy to get somebody else? But I think your first thought should actually be, how can you keep him and supplement the production in a different way with cheaper assets? That should be the actual first move. I don't mind this trade here for the memes because at least you're getting a quarterback back, and if Trevor Lawrence were to, I'm not going to say like get back to 2022 form or anything like that, but if he were to just be a nice consistent piece, I don't think that this is necessarily going to hurt you in the long run. You got the 25 2.01 supposedly, so that could be probably a very solid rookie. I don't hate that. I would still probably lean Rashee Rice just because I love Rashee Rice so much. But this is definitely one of the better Rashee Rice trades that I've seen past my eyeballs. So don't mind that whatsoever. Where were we? Tracks. 8-team Superflex start 11 PPR. Traded Mahomes, Herbert, Watson for Murray. Bro, you just traded quarterback rooms. Wow. I mean, I like your side a lot better. Murray and Mahomes, I think, are pretty much they cancel out each other. I would take Burrow over Herbert, and I'd take Stafford over to Sean Watson. So you won tremendously. Somebody just wanted to go get Mahomes, but you won entirely in the entire group. With Neighbors out, most likely, I think he is out. I think I saw that pass through a few minutes ago that he is officially out. Who do I start between Javonte, Braylon, Rico, Bucky? Well, if Rachaad White doesn't play, I think Bucky Irving is a fantastic play. I would probably go Rico then as my second option. Like I would play Rico if Rachaad White is healthy, but I would play Bucky if Rachaad White is out. I think Javonte could be interesting, but there were talks about Audric Estime being activated for this week, and I think that could be scary for Javonte because I don't know how Sean Payton would view Audric Estime in his first week back. I honestly think that Estime could get a solid look at being the team's RB1. They drafted him. Javonte hasn't been all that amazing outside the past couple of weeks. And just for fantasy, that's been for receptions mostly. So I think with Estime throws a wrench into playing Javonte. So I would play Rico unless Rachaad White is out, then I would play Bucky Irving. And then how do we feel about the Jets with Robert Saleh gone and have Todd Downing as a play calling? That second part, I think, is the most interesting part of this. I don't think firing Robert Saleh really was going to do anything for the offense because Nathaniel Hackett was still the offensive coordinator. But switching over to Todd Downing, I think, is really, really interesting. It at least gives me confidence that there is change happening, or at least they're willing to make change, that there's movement, and that we could have a different play caller. I'm sure that there's a possibility that he could be worse, but it really doesn't seem like he could be worse than Nathaniel Hackett. Should I be worried about Breece and Garrett? As of this moment, I'm not. I would have less concern about Garrett than I would for Breece, although I think at least my hope with Breece is that his schedule is softening, and if they just get back to using him like he should be used, then I think that he would be good. I think that it's possible that Braylon Allen is the loser from all of this, because if they just start to give stuff to Breece Hall, that Braylon's production dips because his volume dips a little bit. But I'm less concerned about Garrett Wilson, and I have rising confidence in Breece that he can return to where he was, not only just last year, but even at the beginning of the year when he scored like 18 plus PPR points each of the first like 3 weeks and then just dipped the past 2 weeks. So I'm hoping we can get back to Breece Hall. Dynasty 12-team Superflex tight end premium start 11, trade a 25 first to Michael Wilson for Jaden Reed. Yes, I will take Jaden Reed in that one. Solid trade. Like that a lot. In that 8-man league, I got offered Lamb for Wilson plus the 0-5 team's most likely 101. Oh my goodness. This is the team. I feel like I would keep Wilson, and I mainly want to keep the most likely 101 for this, because if that turns into Tet McMillan or Luther Burden, whoever ends up being the 101 next year, I think that would be phenomenal. I really hate that I'm turning down CD Lamb in this, especially in a start 8, but I feel like that 101 just like has like, because you could kind of flip this and be like, well, what if you traded Garrett Wilson and the 104 in Superflex this year for CD Lamb last year, or Amon Ra or whoever. And then they're like, oh, well, then that 104 turned into Malik Neighbors. I know that that's like where I'm kind of using hindsight to then also project for the future. But I think a lot of people would rather just have Neighbors and Wilson right now. And I feel like if that's the 101 and Tet McMillan can have that kind of opportunity, which he absolutely has, I think I'd rather just have the 101 and then just hope that Garrett Wilson can kind of return, not return, but like maintain what he was able to do this past Sunday and be great. Not sure why I keep starting Ayuk. Just That was a Debo game last night. I'm continuing to start Ayuk. Because he has to score a touchdown at some point. At some point, he's gonna score. He's too many end zone targets not to score. Finally got the new internet. Hopefully, doesn't struggle on Friday. We'll see. I'm sure by like 12:50, we'll probably get a lag spike, but it's coming tomorrow. What would you trade away ETN for? I mean, I would love a first. You're not getting a first. If you can move off of him and go over to David Montgomery or Brian Robinson, that's great. I just feel like ETN right now is such a taboo name in Dynasty that nobody really wants him, that I think it just makes sense to hold on to him for now. Because there is a possibility that maybe his production gets better, that maybe he does get traded to a different team. If he gets traded to, Dallas or New Orleans or I don't know, anywhere semi interesting, then I think that his value could go up from that. Not even just seeing him on the field, but his value could go up just from him having the opportunity to play for a different team. So it just feels, I feel like anything that I say of like I would love to trade away ETN for this, you're not going to get. So it's a really rough place to be with ETN right now, that I think you just have to hold on to him. Would you start Calvin Ridley or Tolbert at the flex this week? I'm currently leaning Tolbert. That is the same way that I would lean as well. I'd play Jalen Tolbert in a pretty solid matchup. I really need help. I don't know who to start in Dynasty with neighbors out. Wilson, Smith, BTJ, Tank Dell, Pickens, Olave. You can only pick one? I would play Tank Dell out of this whole entire group. Nope. That I literally looked at BTJ's name and I said Tank Dell. Rewind, erase that from memory, Men in Black style. I would play Brian Thomas Jr. out of this entire group. I literally looked right at Brian Thomas Jr.'s name and I said Tank Dell. That was so dumb. I would play BTJ of this entire group. He'd be number one. Number two for me would be Devonta Smith. Then it would be Garrett Wilson. Then it would be Tank Dell. So that's how I would rank those top four. So BTJ of this whole group for me. Traded Rice and a 27 first for London and a 25 early. I cannot read today. I had a very competitive team and wanted to strengthen my chances this year. Don't mind this at all. London is on my short list of wide receivers that if you could trade away to maintain production, Drake London is that guy. Garrett Wilson's on that list too. Jaden Reed is on that list. BTJ, DK Metcalf. That's essentially the Rashee Rice pivot list that I really like doing to maintain being competitive, because I don't think you're really losing much in terms of age or dynasty value. I would still take, if Rashee Rice was healthy, I would take him over all of those guys in dynasty. But because he's not healthy and you're trying to compete, that is the short list that I would go after. And I like it. You paid a 27 first, that hurts, but at least you got a 25 second back. And you get Drake London to continue being competitive this year. So I'm not anti-competing. I feel like sometimes I might get oh, you're just not going to compete this year and you're never going to compete. I feel like I might come across that way, but I want you guys to win. I just think that a lot of the ways that people try to win by losing Rashee Rice is not a really way to win. But I like this. I think this is a good way to win, Jeremiah. I like this a lot. Zach Moss and Chase Brown are both good to go. Let's go. Jonathan Taylor's not at practice. Yeah, because he had a freaking high ankle sprain. That was so dumb that people thought that that the Colts thought that Jonathan Taylor would be back in a week or two. Join my first Devy League this year. Do you guys have some good Devy content to help with values of guys and stuff like that? Yes, we do have Devy content on DLF. We have Devy rankings as well. So I would definitely check that out on the site. Another person that I would go two other people, if you're on the YouTube channel side of it already, Matt Hicks is fantastic. He is what's his YouTube handle? Rookie Big Board. That's what it is. The Rookie Big Board by Matt Hicks. He's a really good college analyst. Devy to Dynasty. Brandon Lejeune is another really good one too. CTC is great as well. Campus to Canton. So those are three good Devy resources on top of what we have at DLF too. Just bought Nico for a 25 playoff first and a future 26 first. Oh my goodness, dude. Beautiful. This is what you do when people are panicking. You use some firsts. Go out and buy these really, really good players. And especially if you're competing and you get Nico Collins back in like a month, that's fantastic. Javante or Najee in the third. I'll take Najee in the third. You get a free third round pick. You're moving kind of. I don't really want either one of these running backs, but I have more faith in Najee's volume, even if he's not going to be good with that volume for the remainder of the year. And you get a third round pick, so I'll take Najee in the third. The sign in the back, Bruce. Oh, this was off of Etsy. Just some. I forget how I found the guy off of Etsy, but he creates YouTube counter signs, like subscriber counters like that, and he'll custom make the sign. This thing is insane. It's like really well made. The wood quality is fantastic. He included the little stand with it too. And then he sent over like the code and stuff for the subscriber counter to automatically update with the YouTube API. Yeah. It wasn't that cheap. I think it was like $250 for him to do this. But it's pretty sweet. I like it a lot. What would you be willing to send a rebuilder for Kelsey in a 10-team, one quarterback, half PPR, no tight end premium? Number one in points, 4 and 4-1, but Kincaid's my only viable tight end. If you can pull him away for anything less than a first, I would not pay a first for Kelsey right now, just because I don't really think there's any longevity. And I don't think that Kincaid is that bad of an option to where I would then want to go pay a first for Travis Kelsey. But if you could, I don't know what else you have, but like 2 seconds, 25 and 26 second for Travis Kelsey, he might be willing to do that just to get rid of him. Anything less than a first, I would say, is up for consideration to go by Kelsey. 12-team Superflex start 9 lost Rice and Nico. Lineup is now Burrow, Lawrence, Gibbs, Cook, ETN, BTJ, Flowers. Hold the line and see if I can compete still. I think that you could still compete for sure. Gibbs and Cook should carry you. BTJ is coming into his own. Flowers looks like Flowers is a very consistent option, and when the Ravens actually have to throw, he becomes the top target. Deontay could spot fill you in nicely. I would probably, I would definitely, if you're like 3-2, 4-1 right now, 5-0 without those two, I would definitely keep going. And then I would probably, I don't know what you have for like draft picks and stuff, but I would probably just try. Team is currently 2-3. Okay. I should keep looking at the comments and then I can. All right. If you're 2-3, then and you have an unbox offer of a mid to late first and second for ETN and Deontay. You know what? I would probably take that more just to get off of Travis Etienne. I would take the first and second because I think that you could, if you end up winning a couple weeks, let's say that in 2 weeks you're now 4-3, because BTJ goes off, Bro continues to do well. Gibbs and Cook are cooking. Then you can use that first and second, or even just the second, honestly, to try to buy somebody on the cheap. Like you could use that second to go get Amari Cooper or James Conner or I was going to say Aaron Jones, but that's all completely injury dependent. But I feel like that gives you flexibility and liquidity with your picks rather than trying to sell ETN and Deontay individually for other stuff. More people, especially the rebuilders, are going to want your picks than ETN and Deontay. So I would take that deal because I think that insulates you for the future with those guys. But also, if you happen to put together some wins over the next month, and then maybe you think you can make a playoff push, you could try to do so minimally with that extra second that you picked up and try to see if you could do something. So I would take the first and second and then just see where you end up going. Connor has someone interested in Ayuk. I'm a contender, but trying to work something like Ayuk and a second for Evans and a mid for. Sure. Anything you can. Hold on. Stupid internet, dude. The internet's starting early today. Rip the stream. Come on. I wanted new internet before today, but they said no, best we could do is tomorrow. Hopefully I'm coming back. Yeah, I'm back. All right, cool. All right. Connor, I don't know if anything that I say came across, but so to restart it, I like both of these deals. I like the ability to basically get another wide receiver and a first for Brandon Ayuk. I really, really like buying Brandon Ayuk, but I feel like these are really good deals to sell him for just naturally anyway. I mean, Evans in a mid first as a contender, I feel like is fantastic because you get the first for the long term. You get Evans for the production now. Works the same way for Deontay in a first. I love both of those. So if you can get either one of those done, absolutely do them. I would prefer Deontay in a first because then you don't have to give up a second. I don't really view that much of a difference between Evans and Deontay. So I prefer just doing Deontay in a first because you don't have to add anything. But if he's only wanting to do the Evans one, then do the Evans one. Seafood or beer? Neither. Both gross. You saw my tweet. Must win this year. If you want to put Alec Pierce in your super flex spot and hope for a win, then be my guest. Who are some trade targets for a hard rebuild team? Rashee Rice, apparently. Trey Benson. If you have any other productive assets and the Trey Benson manager is competing, could be an interesting one. Let me scroll down. Scroll. Marshawn Lloyd is another interesting running back. Everybody loves Jalen Wright, so those are interesting running backs, even though it's hard to say to buy. Jalen Polk might be an interesting one to do that now that Drake May is in. If he has a connection with May and Polk, that if you could get that done before this week, then that would be fun. Basically any of the wide receivers that we really haven't seen do it yet this year, but were drafted in like the second round, or even like, Keon Coleman or Xavier Legette, Adonai Mitchell. Roman Wilson might be a really interesting one just because he's hurt. He hasn't been playing. In the same vein, kind of Ricky Pearsall. So any of those kind of like rookies that we really haven't seen do it yet, I think are interesting. I'm shying away from Jermaine Burton. He might be interesting, but I think Yoshi is more interesting if T. Higgins were to move on at the end of the year than Jermaine Burton. Jalen McMillan might be another one too. Demario Douglas is also interesting for the Patriots, especially if Drake May actually turns out to be good. So you can go for that route. You're really just trying to cast your net as wide as you can and grab as many of these guys for as cheap as you can, because then that increases your probability that some of them actually hit and then increase in value. So that's what I'd be looking at. Anybody else down here on this list? Jacob Cowing. There's another one for you. That's probably it, because all these, we're now in the free agent part of the name. So that's probably a good short list, I think, of guys that I would try and go and target. Thoughts on Ray Davis this Monday night? I think James Cook will sit. I agree. If James Cook is out, I think Ray Davis is a solid like RB3 with RB2 upside. I think that he's the clear guy over Ty Johnson. He has been the clear guy over Ty Johnson basically every week except for last week. So I love Ray Davis so much. I think that he's insanely talented. So I love seeing him get the potential to have an opportunity like this. So I'm in on Ray Davis. I don't know who else your other starters are if you're contemplating him versus some other running backs, but I think that he could be a very solid top 36 or even top 30 type of running back with volume and some of the receiving upside that he has too. Basically as the 1-for-1 replacement for James Cook. Just maybe not as good as James Cook, but volume-wise in there. Brian, 12 team start, 9, half PPR, 1.5 tight end premium rebuilding. Love Fields backups. What we got here? Should I buy Isaiah Pacheco? 2 seconds for Pacheco. Allen Watson and a fourth for Pacheco. Try to buy Rice, Puka, hold. Um, I would, yeah, if you could do the Allen Watson deal, I'm in on that one. I don't know if I would move 2 seconds for Pacheco. I mean, it works. It works to have 2 seconds for Pacheco. I'd probably do that. I'd also try to buy Rashee Rice. If you could capitalize on Xavier Worthy's projected increase in value right now, and sell Worthy and one of your firsts for Rashee Rice, I would love to do that. Um, and then yeah, buy Isaiah Pacheco for any one of your for either of your two other trade offers or trade thoughts. Then I would do that. And then now all of a sudden you have a very vastly different team for next year. And you still have, if you use one of your picks, one of your late firsts for Rice, then you still have the 101. So you still get Tech McMillan or Luther Burden. You have another first that could be whoever, and then you still have two other seconds. So yeah, I love I love what you're building here. I love the core of what you've got, and I think that you do have options to go then buy, um, Rice or Puka, or I don't know if you can buy Nico right now, but that would be fun. But yeah, take advantage of other contenders who've lost out on those assets and try to see if you can buy low for next year. Spot 12 team Serial Flex PPR half tight end premium. Trade May for Rashee Rice. Yes, I'll take Rashee Rice. Yep, give me Rice. I think it's a great way to move off of Drake May before we even see it. Not to say that I think Drake May is going to be bad, but that sorry, I'm texting my friend back. So he asked me if he can drop something off of the house. Not to say that I think that Drake May is going to be bad, but I think that there's a possibility that if he is bad, we maybe not want to see it. And I would give me Rashee Rice for sure. I'm contending right now, and the Rice owners have inquired about Bijan and DJ Moore from me. Do I consider moving either of those guys for Rashee Rice? I would move DJ Moore for Rashee Rice in a heartbeat. I would take Rice over Bijan, but I don't think you need to do that. I think I'd rather hold on to Bijan Robinson right now if you are competing. But I would trade DJ Moore for Rashee Rice and then try to see if you can supplement production in a cheaper way behind that to kind of replace DJ Moore's production. But then you have Rashee Rice for the future. Oh, yeah, we already got. Yeah. How does a low activity league impact your overall strategy in trading? Does overpaying a bit make sense when there's a little opportunity? How about the top tier guys? Yeah. So great question. If you're in a low activity league, I'm definitely more willing to overpay than what I might normally be, especially for the top guys, like you said. I might be more, usually a lot of the time in the off season, we'll talk about, oh, don't worry about your starting lineup. Just trade for value, and then you can figure out your roster, especially at the running back position as we get closer to the summer. I still hold true, especially for the running back part. I don't maybe want to make moves to fill out my starting lineup in like April or May or June for running backs. But I will be a little bit more conscientious of my starting lineup as I'm competing in a low activity league, because you might only get one or two trades done that can actually impact your starting lineup and that you can actually buy people. So I think those are the two main differences in my overall strategy for leagues with lower trade activity, to actually care a little bit more about my starting lineup during the off season, and then be a little bit more willing to just get deals done just to get deals done, especially for the top tier guys, like you said, to then, just get trades done. Or the third option is get a different dynasty league that is actually trading and is more fun. That's option number 3. It's always out there. Definitely don't feel bad about leaving a league if it is not fun. And if trading is a big part of dynasty, which I hope it is, in terms of funness level for you, then don't play in a league that's not fun. Zay Flowers for Jonathan Brooks and a third. Interesting. I would take Ooh. I'll take Jonathan Brooks here. You get the third on top of it, which is nice. If it was Brooks in a second, that's like an easy accept for me to take the Brooks side. But I think that there is enough upside for Jonathan Brooks this year and heading into next year, both production and value wise, for me to want to lean towards Jonathan Brooks. I think Zay Flowers is great. He's immensely talented, but I also think that his ceiling is really capped and he just kind of is what he is. Whereas Brooks has a little bit of an unknown, which is kind of risky, especially coming off the ACL injury. But I think that there's also way more upside and ceiling with Jonathan Brooks based on the type of player and prospect that he was that leads me towards taking Brooks. And the third is fun. You get a free third on top of that. So yeah, give me Jonathan Brooks. Do I trade Tyreek for Ayuk and a late third? I'm in on it. If you're concerned about Ayuk, then that's fine. If you want to hold on to Tyreek Hill, then I'm not opposed to that as a contender because apparently Tua is going to come back in like a week or two. I think it's week 8, right? Because they're on bye this week, so that doesn't count for the IR. So next week is his 4th game, and then it's a possible that he's back for week 8, which McDaniel said that there hasn't been any indication for him not being cleared to come back in this first week available medically. It's more just about, I think, is Tua himself ready, which I feel like Tua, like to be a football player, you want to be like, you probably have like a certain like mental aspect of just put me out there and play. I feel like Tua's got that. So I think Tua, if he's back in week 8 and you want to wait out those next 2 weeks and you just want to keep Tyreek Hill, then I'm totally fine with that. I think, again, if this is kind of similar to the last trade where if this was Ayuk in a second, I'd probably smash that a little bit harder. But Ayuk in a third, if you're concerned about Ayuk and you're not really in on him, then I'm fine with just keeping Tyreek Hill here. In Dynasty, I have Pitts, Hawk, and Kraft. Hold or try to sell one of them. I mean, it's really fun to have all those guys. I would, if you were to sell any of these guys, I think I would sell Kraft now just because I think that his value is not, I wouldn't say at an all-time high, but it's just really high right now because Musgrave is out, probably going on IR. He just had a big game. So Kraft, I feel like, is the one that more people would be interested in than Hawkinson, who's not even playing, and Pitts, who's just Kyle Pitts. If I had a preference of who to move between these three, I'd probably want to move Kyle Pitts the most, but I don't think you're going to get as much back for him as you would for Tucker Kraft. Out of the three that I want to keep the most, it would be TJ Hawkinson. So between Pitts and Kraft, I'm fine with trying to move one of those two. Maybe it just comes down to whoever you can get the most for that ends up being moved, but I'm not opposed to also holding all of those. I think it really just comes down to price. We like Leggett in Dynasty, or think he's a flip as soon as he has a blow up week. Just traded Godwin for him in a second in a rebuild. I mean, I like Xavier Leggett in Dynasty. He was like my wide receiver 5 or 6. I can't remember by the end of the NFL draft season. So I like him still in Dynasty, and I think that he has upside long term. Like we've seen plays, we've seen upside, we've seen the potential and everything with Leggett when he has the ball in his hands. And I there isn't anything that makes me go, this guy is uber terrified. Like I am actually more terrified for Xavier Worthy than I am for Xavier Leggett. I also had to take prior to the season that Xavier Leggett was the better Xavier in the wide receiver class this past year. So maybe there's a little bit more bias for me coming in that I was just a bigger fan of Leggett anyway. But I don't think that he's like an immediate, we need to sell this guy as soon as he has that blow up week and get rid of him. Because I really haven't seen anything that's made me think otherwise, that he doesn't have the potential to be a very solid wide receiver moving forward. Have 4 firsts for a 25 rookie draft. 2 of them potentially 101, 103, 105. Do you spend your future seconds on vets like Eckler, Monty Connor to make the playoffs and make the first more valuable? Hold on. 3, yeah. So 3 of them are potentially 101, 103. Do you spend your future seconds on vets like Eckler, Monty Connor to make the playoffs and make the firsts I'm kind of confused by the second part of that question, but if you're competing, I would rather use my seconds to buy those running backs than I would the first round picks. Um, maybe I just don't fully understand. Sold off most of my vets last year for picks on 24. Nice. You did pretty well with getting BTJ and Jaden and Benson. Nice. I guess I just don't. Am I dumb? Do I just not understand what the question is? uh, yes, of course, I would rather use my seconds than my firsts to compete. Genji, I haven't seen anything in the NFL for me to say that Leggett sucks, but you were also anti-Pitts, and I still don't know if that's right or not. But it's leaning more to be that you were right. The usage, maybe, man. The usage in Atlanta is weird. The 105 and my own are competing for the final 2 playoff spots. Hold on, I need some water. So unless he means compete and beat the owners of the first, he has to make those picks. Oh, so I see what you're saying. So you have these guys' picks. Which pick is yours? So I'm assuming that you think your pick is the 101. So then, because you own you have the 103 and the 105. Those are the other 2 people, and they think that they can both make the playoffs. And then your pick is the 101, right? Your pick is the 108 right now. So you just have 3 random. Then yeah, of course. Like if you're fourth in your league, absolutely push towards making the playoffs for that. And then because I mean, I already feel like you are making the playoffs if you're fourth in the league right now. So, but yes, how can you continue to get better? Um, and if that in turn means that you remove those assets from play from the other teams that might be trying to move into making the playoffs, then yes, I would do that. So it's a double positive to where you're making your team better by spending seconds on these win now running backs that are very productive. And so you're making your team better by doing that, and you're making other teams worse because you're not allowing the other teams to then have these players. So yeah, so I'm in on that too. I like what I was trying to figure out was if you were the 101, did you want to make your team better to then knock the other teams down to then try to um, guarantee that you would have like 3 top 5 picks still if just maybe yours wasn't the 101, you tried to bump somebody down. That's what I was trying to figure out, but that wasn't the case. So because I wouldn't have gone that route. I would have just tried to guarantee that your pick was as good as it could be. But yeah, since you are fourth in the league, I would be trying to compete. If you are fourth in the league, I would try to be pushed for a championship yourself. And then without using these first round picks, how can you make your team better by making this kind of move? And then moving into 2025, if you're fresh off the championship, you just won, and then you have 3 top 5 picks. That is nutty, bro. That's insane. That's how you do Dynasty. So, yeah, definitely make your team better. And if you have the added cherry on top of making other teams worse by not allowing them to have those players, and then you make their picks more valuable, I understand. Okay, we're on the same rhythm. So yes, I would do this. Sorry, we took a long way to get there, but we got there. Mm, 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 mm. All right, where are we at? The question: overpay. Reed, Brian Robinson, and a late second for Bijan. Yes, I think that's an overpay. I think Bijan for Jaden Reed is already a conversation. And then Brian Robinson is the better B Robinson, and you're adding a late second. So I would take Jaden Reed, Brian Robinson in the second so easily over Bijan. Benjamin, happy Friday, my man. Why does a DLF trade analyzer hate players like Shakir and Daddle just lagging value? That's 100% what it is. So the issue that the DLF trade analyzer has is that our formula is based on ADP rankings, and then we have like minute valued changes to players based on actual dynasty leagues that we have from the trade finder. So it tries to basically, it looks at the trades, and we're seeing that if these two players are ranked one way and their ADP is another, but then their trade values flipped, we tried to make that adjustment to make them more even or more aligned with actual trades that are done over the course of like hundreds and hundreds of trades. Um, but one of the main driving factors for the DLF Trade Analyzer is ADP that is conducted on a monthly basis. So in the off season, it's not an issue because values aren't rapidly changing every single week or every 2 weeks or whatever, based on players getting hurt or producing and overproducing, blah, blah, blah. But the 4 months in season, we could have some value lags because a lot of stuff could happen between the 4 weeks of, September ADP ran at the beginning of September, basically in week 1. So now October ADP is being collected right now. So there's basically all that lag between the past month that the ADP is not able to catch because it's being ranked as if it was still week 1, but it's week 5. So that is, I say, one of the drawbacks of the analyzer in season, to where I will kind of shade towards like KTC value or anything like that um, for in season moves. But um, I still think that our analyzer is still fantastic. You just kind of have to make a little bit more mental adjustments with some players' value being driven up that the analyzer is not catching because the ADP hasn't caught it yet. But I still think that there is, like, KTC, I still think can go a little too far. They could be too reactionary and overreact to stuff that happens too quickly. Um, and then us being a little bit slower at reacting because it's on a month by month basis could be bad in some instances, but could still be good in some other instances too. So it's kind of a give and take. That's where, like, I like using the DLF Trade Analyzer for my own personal trades. I'll also then check KTC when I'm also offering trades to other people. Just want to double check, be like, hey, this does make sense in my head to this would make sense to somebody else as it does in my head, right? So that's the lag in season is due to ADP just being run monthly. Traded ETN and 2 first for Bijan. Was that dumb? And will State clear USC? I think, or beat USC. That either one of those words work. I'm hoping that Penn State beats USC. I'm so in on this game. I think we will beat USC. I think it'll be close, but I think we will beat USC. Again, I'm just tunnel visioning right towards Ohio State, and that's the only game that I really care about right now. I am focused on USC as a fan, but I think we do beat USC. But anyway, for ETN and 2 first for Bijan, I think if those are too late first, I don't think that was dumb for sure. If it was like one of them could be early, then one of them could be late or anything like that, then maybe but I do think that Bijan is a good buy right now. I feel like you just paid like semi top dollar for Bijan at where his value is currently. But I don't think that this was a dumb trade if this was too late first, for sure. Especially if he does actually like smack, this weekend because he has a good matchup, and then like I said, his schedule gets easier moving forward. So if he actually does return to being Bijan Robinson and ETN starting to slide even more, then it's going to look bad. I need to answer questions way faster. By the way, I don't know if people saw this, but I do have kind of like a hard stop at like 2:00 in like an hour, so I need to run through these questions faster. But the reason why I have a hard stop is because we are doing another stream at 2:30 Eastern time. My idea from a couple weeks ago is coming to fruition with Anthony's team, who had a massive super chat a couple weeks ago. So we are doing like a roster review league breakdown live where the focus is just on Anthony. So Anthony's going to be in the chat. And I got some stuff made up that we could hopefully help him create a better dynasty league. So that video is going to be all about Anthony. So that's why I kind of have a hard stop at like 2:00 because I want to eat some lunch and then re-energize for that video at 2:30. But let's go through these questions faster. Flex one, BTJ. I'll flex him. I really like Chuba though. Benjamin, can I? I'm looking at Paulson's rankings here because I just want to make sure that I'm not being an idiot with this. Okay, he does agree. I would play. Crap. I'll play Chuba out of that group. I changed my mind. I'll play Chuba. I'm not in love with Garrett Wilson either, just because Buffalo's been really good against opposing outside wide receivers. Nah, okay, I'm in. Yeah, I'll just play Chuba out of those three. I'll play Chuba, and then you can keep Garrett Wilson in. What are the long-term thoughts on Rico and a half PPR, half point for first down? I don't think that he really has any longevity at the end of the year. I think that Dallas kind of realized that they made a mistake and that they did not address the running back room. So even if they draft somebody on day 3 next year, that there's a possibility that that running back is as good or even better than Rico Dowdle. So I don't think he has any longevity. If you could sell him for a second or a second plus, I think that that's fine. If you're competing, I'm fine keeping him, especially if you need some running backs. If you didn't have Christian, or if you haven't had Christian McCaffrey, you lost Isaiah Pacheco. Maybe now you kind of lost Jordan Mason for a week or two, depending on, I don't know what the severity of the AC sprain was. But if you need the production from Rico now, I don't hate just keeping him. But I also don't think that he has much longevity for the future because I don't think that he's like the long-term Dallas Cowboys starter. Neighbors out, pick 1 full PPR, 2 PPR tight end premium. Interesting. I will play Deontay out of all of this. Stevenson's flex 74 and Deontay's flex 33. Yep. So Paulson agrees. Play Deontay, even with the 2 tight end premium. If you have both, are you playing ETN or Tank Bigsby this week? Any thoughts on that situation in general? I would still play ETN over Bigsby. ETN continues to have more volume, at least on a weekly basis. He had more receiving volume last week, so that was good. Bigsby's just thriving on efficiency. This is basically my last week. I want to see this is basically my last week for like starting ETN as an every week kind of guy and seeing if Bigsby is actually startable over ETN moving forward or not. I'm still leaning towards ETN. But I think that we could see the crossing point between the two to where Bigsby then becomes the better starter in Jacksonville, even with ETN there. ETN's also dealing with his shoulder injury, so maybe that's something to monitor too. If they say that they're going to limit his snaps or his touches, then I would play Bigsby. I haven't really seen anything like that though. But I think my hope is that ETN gets traded and he can go somewhere else and be better. And then Bigsby could be the starter for Jacksonville. But as of right now, I'm still playing ETN this week. That might be wrong, but I'm giving it one more week on this. 10 teams start 10. Trade Saquon and Stafford for McCaffrey, a late first, and Tony Pollard. Ooh. If you're competing, I think I would just rather keep Saquon. I'm assuming maybe because you're taking on McCarthy in a first that you are maybe not. If you're competing, I would take Saquon and Stafford. If you're not competing, I'll take the other side. And then I would try to move Tony Pollard. Move Puka for BTJ on a whim in the offseason. I'm so happy I did. I mean, they're both, I think Puka's still going to be great. You're just getting more production out of BTJ right now because he's healthy, but they're both ending up going to be fantastic options. So I like it. Where are we at? Ken, 16-team Superflex, entering year 2 of a rebuild, but surprisingly contending. Not sure if I should keep rebuilding. Interesting. Make some small tweaks to try to upgrade wide receiver 3 in a Superflex spot or be patient and see what happens. Definitely not going all in. Any suggestions? What is your... Did you give me your record? Ken, if you're still in here, what's your record to where you're like, oh, I'm surprisingly competing? Hopefully you're still in here, Ken. I need to move through these so much faster. So many questions. There's 75 people in here. I'd imagine because you have Kyler and Daniels and you've done really well with London Reed, Brian Robinson. Oh, you're chasing breakers. You're 2 and 3. Then yeah, if you're 2 and 3, I think that I would take that deal then for McCarthy, the first, and Pollard. See if maybe Pollard gives you good enough production I'm not going to say he's going to replace Saquon Barkley, but good enough production to where maybe you could still kind of contend. And then, yeah, so I'll take JJ McCarthy in the first for you, chasing breakers. Ken, you're 3-2, fourth in points for. Wow, well done. Yes, I would probably make some small tweaks, like you said. I would not go. Don't push yourself all in on this. And I would probably because, well, I mean, both of your quarterbacks are great with Kyler and Jaden Daniels. Yeah, if you need a better QB3, then sure. But maybe by the time that Kyler or Daniels' bye weeks come by, that Winston might be the starter by then? Question mark. I don't know. I'd probably still ride it. If you feel like you need another running back, maybe you can get a David Montgomery, then that would be great. Maybe you can get like an Amari Cooper or Mike Evans. Basically, I would try to identify players, aging veterans that are still productive on the rebuilding teams in your league. See what players that even is that could even net you. So look at the 0-5, the 1-4, maybe the 2-3 teams that are starting to sell right now. Give yourself an idea of the players that are even possibly available to you, and then try to see if you can match them with draft picks that you have. Or, maybe you say, hey, you know what, screw it. I'll move off of Ricky Pearsall, or I'll move off of Jalen Polk or Jermaine Burton or somebody like that for an actual for an actual competing piece right now. Like, I'll trade Jalen Polk in the third for Amari Cooper or something. I don't know. I just completely made that up. But those are lower opportunity cost pieces, I think, that could still kind of push you towards being competing this year, but they also don't really hurt your long term. So that's how I would go about it. Is identify those players from the rebuilding teams and then see if you can match them with the pieces that you have to make a deal done. Would you start ETN, Bigsby, or both? Alternatives are Rico Dowdle and Trey Sermon. I would start Trey Sermon. Let's see what Paulson says. Where's Tank? So Paulson does still have ETN considerably higher than Tank Bigsby at 2.5 fantasy points above. He has Rico Dowdle right behind ETN and Trey Sermon basically right behind Rico Dowdle. So his 3 starts would be ETN, Dowdle, Sermon would be in that order. So if you're only starting 2 of them, he would say ETN and Dowdle. I don't necessarily disagree, especially if that Dallas-Detroit game could be a little bit high scoring. Tennessee's defense is still really good too for Trey Sermon. ETN actually has a really good matchup against Chicago's run defense. They're kind of a run funnel this year. So I would play ETN and then I would play Dowdle. So then you're not all completely absorbed in this kind of bad Jaguars offense. Not looking to compete this year in my 1 quarterback league. We traded my 2nd round pick away for DJ Moore because I thought that's great. The only way that I would move DJ Moore is if you could move him then for a first. That's like instant ROI for your 2nd round pick. If you're not getting a first, then I would just keep him moving into next year. And then maybe next year with Caleb Williams in year 2 getting better, then maybe that'll just mean that DJ Moore's better next year. Buying him for a 2nd was great. So the only way that I would then sell him is if you can just basically like double your money and get that 1st round pick, hit reset on a different rookie wide receiver. But other than that, I'm fine keeping him into next year. Nice. The fact that you took over the orphan and now you're 5th in points for is pretty incredible. There's my internet outage. New internet tomorrow. What wide receivers could I target for Stevenson and Pollard? I also have 2 firsts to tier up if needed, looking to compete next year. Rashee Rice. One of those guys in a first for Rashee Rice would be great. One of those guys in a first for Jaden Reed, I think, would be great. For DK Metcalf, I think would be great. Stevenson or Pollard straight up would probably more net you. Maybe you could get George Pickens for that. Maybe you could get, maybe you could Zay Flowers. Let's pull up, just see what. Apparently you're not getting Zay Flowers. Where are we at? Oh, Michael Pittman would be a good answer. Could you get Michael Pittman for one of those two? Could you get man, not a lot of good young options. Yeah, you're probably going to end up having to add a pick to them. So if you can add a pick to either one of them and move up and get, like I said, Rashee Rice, or move up and get uh Reed or DK Metcalf, or maybe you could buy Garrett Wilson right now. Those are the names that I think I would aim for. Or if you wanted to add maybe a second to them, and then you can move up and get, um, get a Tank Dell or Brandon Ayuk or T Higgins with one of them, then I would try to do that too. All right, need to move faster. 10 team, one quarterback start, 10 PPR competing team, 25 pick will be early, but won't be the 101. Would you trade away an early first for Rome? No, I think I would just hold on to the 25 first. I like Rome Odunze, but I feel like I would just hold on to the first. There's more flexibility in that, I think. Doable to trade Rice for that, which was I'd rather just have Deontay in the first rather than play the game of if he will make the playoffs or not. So give me Rashee Rice for that. I think it's nice. That's definitely one of the better offers I think I've seen, but I would still take Rashee Rice. Bought Rice on a contender last year's champ 5-0. Had Rice sold him to me last week for Wicks in his first. Boom. That's how you buy Rashee Rice. Should I just give up my 26 first for Goff? Might try to buy Mixon and Monty to solidify roster with Chuba and a 26 second. Yeah, I would send a 26 first for Goff, and then I would. Yeah, I would. Then I would do the other running back deals then too with Mixon or Monty. Chuba in a second for both of them, I think makes sense. Dynasty wise too, it makes sense because then Jonathan Brooks is coming back. And then maybe if you could recoup that second by then moving Dalton or Flacco or Russ if he starts, then basically you just move Chuba and one of your backup quarterbacks for Mixon or Monty. Then that could work too. Brian Thomas Jr. Rice, for sure. Worth moving a second to get more running back depth for a contender. Yeah, I probably would. I'd like to have somebody that cuts right in between Kyron and Chase Brown. So if you could get a James Conner, if you could get a Monty or B-Rob is kind of hurt now. I don't think you can get B-Rob for a second anymore. A Mixon, a Pollard, somebody like that in there that kind of comes in between Kyron and Chase Brown in your depth chart. I think that would work. Even if you've got to add, Roshan in a second, does that get you David Montgomery instead of? Because I'd rather do that than pay a second for Tony Pollard. I'd rather have Monty than Pollard. And if you got to add Roshan to do that, but yeah. Do we turn around and try to trade Ray after that if he starts? Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to trading. That's kind of the point with Ray Davis is that he's in the handcuff range, and the two things that you do with a handcuff are either use him for actual production or trade him away for heightened value. So if you can do both of them, then that would be great. If you could use him for the production and then trade him after that for a second, then I would do that. Bucky or Ray Davis, if they both start, I'll take Bucky Irving. Theo, what's up, my man? How you doing? Doing pretty well. Hope you're doing well too. I traded what would have been an early first, mid first, and early second for Jordan Love and Breece Hall because the team wanted to take their picks to 101. Still have wow. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, you basically I think Jordan Love is worth 2 firsts in that regard, an early and a mid for Jordan Love. I think that makes sense. So then you traded an early to mid second for Breece Hall. Free. Excellent. Well done. You also capitalized on Jennings and traded him and Stafford for Waddle in a second. Dude, you are killing the dynasty trades. And then should you trade May in a second for London? Yes, I would. I would take London there. I like that a lot. Give up Leggett and Christian Watson for Pacheco. I'm fine with that. I'll take Pacheco there. If Russ ends up starting, should we be looking to buy Fields low? The Steelers fan in me wants to buy. As a Steelers fan myself, I think Justin Fields is bad. Sure. I mean, if you can buy Justin Fields for a third, that was always kind of the buy price for me. I don't think I would ever buy Justin Fields for a second ever again. Um, but yeah, if Russ starting means that you could buy Justin Fields for a third to then maybe Russ gets hurt again and then Fields gets thrown back into being the starter, or Fields showed enough that he could be a kind of bridge quarterback again next year for somebody else. Like if Rodgers retires and he goes to New York or something like that, or, if Stafford moves on and then he goes to LA or he goes down to Carolina and bridge QBs for whoever they draft, any of those situations could work to where Justin Fields then becomes a starter somewhere else again. But I wouldn't pay a second. I'd pay a third. Oh, yeah, we already did that. Got you, Theo. Had McBride and Bowers wanted to move McBride for a wide receiver, but other managers don't seem to be excited. Should I just keep both for a long one? Yeah, absolutely keep both. If you're not getting the price for a player, then don't sell the player. It's especially a player like Trey McBride that, there's no reason to sell him other than you just have Brock Bowers. But then you're also holding another top tier tight end from somebody else and they can't be used against you. Like Trey McBride is great. So I'm totally fine holding on to both these guys. I understand if you want to stop looking at Trey McBride on your bench because you're starting Bowers every week and want to actually upgrade or get another starting asset at a wide receiver position. But if you're not getting what you want, then there's no point in selling him for anything less than that. 12-team Zero Flex Dynasty. My wide receivers got offered Bowers, Debo, and a second for Jefferson. You didn't mention it, so I'm assuming that this is not a tight end premium. I would rather just have Justin Jefferson. I will start Darius Slayton with Neighbors out. He's the new Malik Neighbors. All the Rice talk made me wonder. I have Goff. Would you move Rice and Goff for Caleb and something else? It would need to be a pretty big something else. Like I don't even know what the something else could be, but it needs to be a pretty big something else. Because I feel like Goff and Caleb are already relatively close, that it needs to be another like Rashee Rice kind of asset. Bought Kraft for 89 Fab in Dynasty a week ago. Holy crap, dude. Awesome job. Pick a trade and thoughts. Trade Shaheed and Bucky for Pacheco and Addison, or Cup and Shaheed for London and Pacheco. Neither. I'd rather have Shaheed, Bucky, and Cup. I don't want Pacheco in redraft. So that's my issue. Just keep the players you already have. Boop, 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 boop. Deep League, who I started the flex, Slayton or Roshan Slayton. No tight end premium league. I'm a contender. Only playable tight end is Ingram. Trade Chase Brown for Tucker. Yeah, I mean, dynasty wise, I think I would rather have Tucker Kraft than Chase Brown anyway. Because the upside of if Tucker Kraft is like the new up and coming, like the new Dallas Goedert, the new Trey McBride, that could be huge. So give me that over a player that is currently the backup behind Zach Moss, who is still healthy. So give me Tucker Kraft. Although I'm also not opposed to this either. I think I'd rather keep. I would take Chase Brown, like a second for Chase Brown. I think makes sense. Kraft and Goddard, I think, are kind of similar-ish. I think I'd rather trade a second for Goddard and then keep Chase Brown as a higher upside handcuff in case Zach Moss were to get hurt and actually miss time. Friday AMA, what's up, Toronto Dave? All right, we got a big $20 super chat. My man, I blessed. Is that the name there? $20 super chat. Dude, thank you so much, my dude, for the support. Let's see what we got here that we can help you out with. 4-1, first place. Dak Stroud. Is this a super flex or one quarterback? You don't have to do another super chat, but I need the league details. How super flex or one quarterback? How many starters do you start? I'm assuming you're pretty high in the points for category as well if you're 4-1. But let's see. So So the big, and this is Dynasty, right? Like what if this assuming this is this Dynasty that you then have picks? 1 QB, 9 starters. Nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Interesting. Oh, 9 in the Steelers. Defense. Defense takes up a starter spot. Jonathan Taylor is officially out. Jalen Warren logged to full practice and is about to play. Mike Tomlin says Russell Wilson will be active. Very interesting. Sorry, I was trying to. Yeah, I bless. This is Dynasty, right? Do you have any draft picks? Or is this redraft? That's the second. That's question number 2. Excellent. Okay. I'm pulling up this. All right. So your wide receiver spot, I think, is the point of is the biggest pain point. McBride and Goddard are great. Your quarterbacks are great too. I'd maybe try to see how can you move one of your quarterbacks for a wide receiver upgrade. So can you move one of the QBs and Olave? So then you have the actual Saints wide receiver 1 and Rashid Shaheed. But can we? Where's Olave on here? We'll do Olave and we'll do Stroud just for fun. Can you use both of them and then go buy? Could you buy low on Tyreek Hill with Tua hopefully potentially coming back? Could you buy maybe a Chris Godwin, a DK Metcalf, maybe a Garrett Wilson? Could you buy one of those guys? That's how I would look at it, and see if you can upgrade from Olave using one of your quarterbacks. That would be, I think, one of step number 1. I having CMC, Brees, and JT is crazy in a redraft league. If only they were also that JT's out, Brees is not producing, CMC is wherever he is in the world. Because that could be something else that you could do too. Is try to see if you can upgrade your running back situation. If you could sell JT right now for David Montgomery and something, or could you trade JT for Bijan? Kind of, or you already have Brees Hall. But like getting you another running back that is playing right now, but also still kind of elite, like Jonathan Taylor. Jahmyr Gibbs or somebody like that. James Cook, although Cook is out too, so that doesn't necessarily help you. James Conner plus David Montgomery plus, like I said. That's kind of, I think maybe you could buy low on Nico since you're 4-1. If you're trying to prepare for the playoffs, could you buy low on Nico Collins? Could you do Dak and Olave for Nico and maybe a running back? Those I think would be how those would be the moves that I think that I would be looking at from a redraft standpoint. I'm really bad at redraft trades. But I think did that. I want to make sure that you got your $20 value worth, because thank you so much for that. But is there anything else that you were trying to figure out? Appreciate the advice. We'll definitely go for Nico. Yeah, Nico I think could be a really interesting one, because I think you could survive long enough for the next couple weeks to then, when Nico comes back, you could take advantage of somebody who's trying to still compete with Nico out and give him Chris Olave, give him another quarterback. You get Nico, and you have to wait on him. And then maybe you can get another running back that kind of fills in for JT or CMC until they get back. Hopefully CMC comes back. But those are or just like I said, buy low on Tyreek Hill right now before Tua comes back, or just try to see if you can upgrade the wide receiver spot to somebody else like a DK Metcalf. I think is a good buy low right now because he kind of had a dud of a game on last night. But you have good depth in areas that I think you don't necessarily need as much depth, and then you can move that depth and upgrade somewhere else at running back or wide receiver. But appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you so much for the support. All right, where were we? Gotta go so fast. Gotta go fast through these. Josh, 12-team Superflex start 10. I'm not competing. Got both off the street last year. Selling Wandale and Shakir for mid second and a fourth and Javon Baker. I think you can get a second individually for both of those. I think this is not enough. You should definitely be able to get more for Wandale and Shakir individually. Can't do better in my league. Hard to trade than just. Can you just move one of them for one of these? I don't even need. You can just say, "I'll trade you Wandale for a second and a fourth." You can keep Javon Baker, or just trade Wandale for the second, or just trade Shakir for the second. You don't need the fourth and Baker if it's just one of them. I mean, I like Javon Baker too, but if getting Javon Baker means that you lose both these guys, I think I'd rather just have both those guys. Dowdle, Moss, Chase Brown, Downs, or Pickens, flex two of them. Moss and Moss is flex 71. Dowdle is flex 45. Wow, he really likes. I think maybe he was worried that Moss wasn't going to play. Downs is flex 69. They get Tennessee though. Pickens flex 54. So I would play Moss and Pickens. That's where I was already leaning to. Paulson really likes Dowdle, maybe for the volume. But if Zach Moss is apparently good to go, so I'm willing to play Zach Moss, and then I'll play George Pickens in a good matchup against the Vegas Raiders. Those are the two I would go for. Odunze mid first and a 26 first for Lamb. Give me Lamb. Just especially in the start 8, just package it all and go get Lamb. Kraft or Juju rest of season, I'll take Tucker Kraft. How do you value BTJ? Also, what would you trade for him now, or is his buy window? His buy window is definitely closed. I think on KTC he was like the wide receiver 8, which I don't know if I'm that high, but he by me saying I don't know if he's wide receiver 8, he's probably like wide receiver 11. So I think the ability to trade for BTJ has gone out the window. Ohio State will beat Oregon this week. And hopefully they do not beat Penn State. But Ohio State's going to beat Oregon this week for sure. I hate Ohio State so much, and I hate the fact that you already have a wide receiver better than Marvin Harrison. Do you have BTJ over DJ Moore? And yes, I had that probably like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, BTJ is definitely over DJ Moore. We're also holding out for what feels like an inevitable coaching change in Jacksonville, what that means for the running back. There is that too. Maybe Peterson gets fired. Garendo, Allen, Ray Davis, better add. I think Braylon Allen is the better add rest of season. Garendo is really interesting, though, if Jordan Mason's injury is more long-term. I think Braylon Allen is the answer for this as of right now. If we find out that Jordan Mason is put on IR, then I'd probably pick up Garendo. But give me Braylon Allen as of right now. Slayton or Kraft this week? Oh man. I think I go help me, John Paulson. Kraft is flex 70. Slayton is flex 62. Paulson would say Slayton. They do get Cincinnati. And if his usage last week was any indication of what it would look like without Malik Neighbors, I mean, they don't have people to throw to other than Neighbors and Wandale. And with Neighbors out, it's Slayton and Wandale. So I think I'd play Slayton again. I think I agree with Paulson. Bowers or Laporta in Dynasty? Bowers. Bowers is tight end 1 in Dynasty for sure. Traded Pittman, Odunze, Spears, and Singletary for Ferguson, 2nd, and BTJ. Wonderful. I think Pittman and Ferguson are pretty close. The 2nd for Spears, and then you traded Singletary and Odunze for BTJ. Give me BTJ. That's fantastic. Are Bijan and Brees still 1 and 2 in Dynasty running back rankings, or have they been overtaken? They are currently still 1 and 2 for me. Just because I don't really know who else to put above him. Like Gibbs, I think is good. Maybe he probably is deserving to be the RB1. But he still has to share the backfield with David Montgomery, who I don't think is definitely going anywhere. And Monty is definitely better than Algier and Braylon Allen. So I think Bijan and Brees are underperforming, and Gibbs is adequately performing. And that's what making people put Gibbs over both of them. I think they're still the big 3. I would still have them all in a big tier of their own. And honestly, like if Tua was healthy, Achane would be up there too. Because I mean, he was for me after the first couple of weeks with Tua healthy. But this is kind of what lends me to. I think it's a very easy path for Jonathan Brooks to gain a lot of value because of his age, because nobody else is really producing at the running back position to a confident level. Saquon is getting old. Christian McCaffrey is currently hurt. Kyron and Kenneth Walker are both great. JT is producing really well too when healthy. So those guys kind of make up like, I think 4, 5, 6, 7 with Saquon in there too because he's producing. But I don't think it would take all that much for Jonathan Brooks to move up into that kind of top 5, 6 range. These numbers are still. Sorry, I'm waiting for my internet to slowly come back. They get the little internet symbol. Might be robotic right now. Boop, 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 boop. We're coming back. We're coming back. We're back. All right. I don't know if I went anywhere, but would you trade away BTJ, a mid first, a mid second for Gibbs, a mid second, and 27 second? No, I would keep BTJ. BTJ and Gibbs is already kind of a question, but then you get a first and second over 2 seconds. So give me that side. I'll take BTJ on this one. Dynasty rebuild, would you trade away Olave and Mitchell for Tank, Jalen Wright, and a late 25 first? Yes, I would. I think I basically view this as Olave for Tank Dell and the first, which is very easily Tank Dell in the first, and then I would take Jalen Wright over Adonai Mitchell. So I like that a lot. I'm fine with Tank Dell over Zay Flowers too. If he has a preference between the two, that's fine. I think Tank Dell could offer more upside if Stephon Diggs is not re-signed. So I think there's more upside for Tank Dell. I like both of them. I think they're both fine. If you get whichever wide receiver you end up getting, I think it's fine. I might lean still slightly Tank Dell, but I like Zay Flowers in that too. Broad question: what are you looking to do with ETN right now? I think you just have to hold on to him. There really isn't anything that you can do just because I don't think anybody wants to buy him. I think that's the issue. Or the people that do want to buy him are just going to be like, hey, I'll throw you like a second. And that's kind of it. So it's really unfortunate. If you get a first round pick for ETN, then definitely sell. If you can package him with something and then move up to go get, go get, I don't even know who you would upgrade from him to. Side grade over to Monty or Brian Robinson or Josh Jacobs or Mixon. I don't. It's like if you're competing, those would be the running backs that I'd probably be looking at. But I don't know if anybody wants to take on ETN right now, so it's just kind of unfortunate. I think you're hoping for him to get traded, him to actually get better, or for the offensive system to change with coaching changes. Yes, I would take 3 seconds over Jameson Williams. I think Jameson Williams is sliding right back into the territory of where he probably would have always been. He just had a couple of really good games. But Amon-Ra still the wide receiver one on that team. Jamo is just a high upside dice roll. 1.75 tight end premium, Hawkinson or Mark Andrews and Jalen Polk. I'll take Andrews and Jalen Polk. I think that Andrews just comes back at some point to being good, and you get a free Jalen Polk on top of that. So give me those two. Can you please make a video with updated wide receiver and running back rankings? That is on the docket. Justin is going on his honeymoon. Justin got married. For those of you that don't know, Justin got married last week. So his honeymoon is scheduled for the first week of November. So I have that whole week blocked off as a rankings update week, which kind of is basically coinciding with like halfway through the season. So once we get through halfway through the season, I'm going to drop a updated rankings video for quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, and I guess maybe I'll do tight ends just for the heck of it. But yes, that is on the docket over the next couple of weeks. Would you buy Tua? Yes, I would. If you can pay, I would pay a late first for Tua right now. I don't really know if I would do anything more than that, or if you could, if it's like Tua and you have to also include, Stafford or Levis or whoever it is, just to give them another somebody. Then I think that's fine too. But yeah, I'm kind of interested in buying Tua right now because I've seen some pretty depressed values for him in trades. So yeah. What do you think about trading away Garrett Wilson for Nico Collins in Dynasty? 1,000% take Nico Collins. I love that so much. Because you're just going to have to wait a few weeks, and then you get Nico Collins back. He's probably like a top 5 Dynasty wide receiver. He's amazing. Maybe 6. The top of the wide receiver rankings is really, really fun right now because they all feel so similar, and you're just picking and choosing your favorites. Now that we've got, the top 4 are still all producing well. Neighbors has come up into that group. Nico has come up into that group. Marvin Harrison Jr. is in there. Puka, AJ Brown are still there too. Rashee Rice should have been in there. But yes, I would take Nico Collins. Ryan, what's up, my man? Happy Friday. Start 3 between Mixon, Cooper, Deontay, BTJ, Brian Robinson, and Tank Dell. Interesting. So I would love to play Brian Robinson and Joe Mixon, but I don't know if either one of them are playing. I got an alert saying that Robinson is a game time decision. If he's playing, I'll play him. What time is his game at? Like a late time? Is it? No, he's a 1:00 game. Okay, that's good. So you'll know if you can start Brian Robinson or not. But then after that, I would love to start those two, B-Rob and Mixon, and then my third would be BTJ. So I'd play those 3. If one of the running backs is out, my next man up would be Deontay Johnson. If both of the running backs are out, then I would play Tank Dell. So I rank them B-Rob, Mixon, BTJ, Deontay, Tank Dell. So I would just go down that line if BTJ or if Brian Robinson or Mixon play or not. In an 8 team, what would it cost to get BTJ? I have 3 first, my own pick, 101 and a top contender. You would need to pay at least 2 of those firsts. If you can pay both of those late first, mid to late first, I would pay your first and the top contenders first. If you can play both of those for BTJ, I would do that. And if you got to add a second or whatever, then that's fine. But I wouldn't pay 101 in another first, but the 2 mid to late first. And if you have to add a second, then I would do that. Sorry to ask the same question a different way. Would you trade DJ Moore for Rice? Yes. Give me Rashee Rice very easily. And you have the other wide receivers that you can produce. And then you get Rashee Rice added to that. Got to start 2. Can you rank them for me? Stevenson, Bigsby, Moss. I would go. So I know that Paulson, I think, has Zach Moss in his rankings really low, but I think that he was maybe anticipating that he wasn't going to play. So Paulson has it going. Oh, Moss, Stevenson, Bigsby. So so those are the two. I'm fine playing if you're thinking that Stevenson may not get a whole bunch of work because they play the Texans and with the new Drake May, like first game for Drake May, then I'm fine playing Bigsby and Moss. I would not play Ty Johnson. Moss, I think, is locked in. So really it's the argument between Stevenson and Bigsby. If you want to remove yourself from Drake May's first game against a really good defense and probably like a really pass heavy game script for Stevenson because you're going to be losing the entire time, then I'm fine playing Bigsby. Bigsby has a really good opportunity with Chicago. So I'm fine with that too. Moss is locked in though. What's up, man? First time viewer. Welcome in, my dude. Hopefully you're still here. I go by the questions in order and I talk a lot. So hopefully you're still in here. But yeah, first time viewer, can you help with my lineup? RB2, White, Eckler, Chase Brown, tight end Kincaid are likely. Feel like Eckler is a must start if Robinson is hurt. Yes, I agree. If B-Rob doesn't play, I would play Austin Eckler. If it's the assumption is at least that Zach Moss is going to be healthy and he's going to play. So I think that knocks out Chase Brown. So I would play Rachaad White. If Rachaad White doesn't play and Brian Robinson plays, then I would probably play Chase Brown. But I think the order that you have it in right now would be my default order, except if B-Rob is hurt, then I would play Eckler. So I'm aligned with where you were thinking already with the players you were lined up. But if B-Rob's out, I'd play Eckler. Downs or Wicks? I would play Wicks one more time. He got a bunch of targets, just didn't connect. So I'd go Wicks one more time. Who would you target if contending with a package of Tank Dell and a late first? I could throw you an alternative option. Tank Dell's production could go up with Nico Collins out to where maybe you use the production of Tank Dell. Oh, internet. Come on, man. I'll hold my thoughts until my internet comes back in. Oliver's awake. Internet, come back. It looks like it's coming back. Okay, it looks like we're back. All right. I was also looking up to try to answer this. So there's two ways to go about this. At face value, if you were looking for a player to package Tank Dell in a first four, I would look at AJ Brown. I would look at if you could buy low on Nico Collins, that would be fantastic, I think, to do this. But maybe it's Drake London. Maybe it's, and even then I feel like you could get something attached with Drake London to do that. According to Keep Trade Cut, if you're paying both those guys, you could theoretically get like CeeDee Lamb. Never mind that. I hate the way that Keep Trade Cut does this. Let's see. Could you get London for this? Yeah, you can get London. BTJ maybe is in that range too. The only other option that I could present to you that I was trying to start talking about before my internet cut out was I think Tank Dell's production is going to go up because his usage is going to go up without Nico Collins. So maybe if Tank Dell is actually producing, you could use that production now as a contender. And then also simultaneously that is increasing his value to where maybe it's easier to move from Tank Dell to London or BTJ or somebody like that to where maybe it's Tank Dell in a second to do that in a couple weeks. Or Tank Dell in a first actually nets you somebody higher. It actually maybe could get you to a CeeDee Lamb or an Amon-Ra or a Malik Neighbors because he hasn't been playing or anything like that. To where, that's kind of that might be really pushing the boundaries of how much value Tank Dell could gain based on what production that he has. But that could be an alternative route to where maybe you see what Tank Dell is with Nico Collins out for a week or two. Because I'm sure that you could probably still pull off something similar with Tank Dell in a first to what you can get now, except you have the upside that what if he starts actually producing and his value goes up from that maybe you could get a better wide receiver than what you could initially right now. I already have Jamar, Amon-Ra, Marvin Harris. Oh, jeez. So maybe it is Nico. So, I mean, you could afford probably with those three trying to go buy a Nico Collins, buy low on him if they were interested in replacing the production. Maybe it could be AJ Brown, like I said, yep, exactly. Seem to be low on him right now. He's already passed his bye week as well, so you don't have any more bye weeks for him moving forward. He'd be a great kind of um, lineup stabilizer when Jamar Chase has his bye. When Amon-Ra's passed his bye now too, but when Marvin Harrison has his bye, so I think AJ Brown would be a good option too. I think you could try to take advantage. AJ Brown, Nico Collins would be the two that I'd really swing hard for both of those guys. Should I trade Achane for Breece in redraft? I'd probably just hold on to Achane in redraft. Wait for Tua to come back. Would you send Tank a first and Chuba for BTJ? Yes, I would. Pacheco, Christian Kirk, Andrews, or BTJ? I would take BTJ. Slayton or McLaurin this week? I think I'd start McLaurin there. He's been really good with Jaden Daniels. And yeah, that Baltimore-Washington game might be really, really fun. I mean, we just saw what Cincy did to Baltimore's defense last week. So, is it crazy to go get 27 first because the freshman wide receivers are going crazy? No, it's not crazy whatsoever. If you can try to identify which team might not be good in a couple years, I would go for it. Give yourself as many options as you can to go get a 27 first because both those guys look phenomenal. I mean, it literally looks like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors all over again, or like CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. Like both those guys are insane. They're so freaking good, dude. I tweeted out that I almost want to start a Debbie league just so I could have the opportunity to draft one of these guys in the league right now. That's how good they are. They both look phenomenal. Is Godwin and Ferguson enough for Rashee? It might. I don't think it is. I would not sell Rashee Rice for that, but I think that's probably enough to buy Rashee Rice, and especially with the extra premium for tight ends. I'd go Brian Robinson if he plays. If he doesn't play, then I would go with Trey Sermon again. Would you trade AJ Brown and Joe Mixon for Drake London and Kenneth Walker? I do think that Drake London is better than Garrett Wilson. I have Drake London ranked slightly higher. I would. I'm okay with this deal because you get the age buy down from Mixon to Walker. AJ Brown and Drake London are closing in terms of value, although I do have AJ Brown higher. But I think buying back the age of Mixon to Walker, I think is nice. So yeah, I think I would do this. Start 9, Stroud. Am I a real competitor? I think maybe. I think you're a playoff team. I don't know if you are a championship level team. I think you have the pieces though. So you are a playoff team, and if things go right in the playoffs, then you definitely could make and win the championship. I just don't know if I would put my money on you. I'd like to see what the other teams are before I maybe do that. But I mean, with Derrick Henry, maybe with Jordan Mason was looking pretty solid, but then he was going to probably go back down once Christian McCaffrey came back. You get Puka coming back, Deontay Johnson. I think you're a playoff team. I just don't think that you are a championship level team. What's a good value on selling Rattler to a contender needing if you can get a second, I would do that. I had somebody ask me on Twitter. They said that they were offered a second for Spencer Rattler, and I said, take the second, dude, because I don't think Spencer Rattler's anything special. Rebuilding should be very competitive next year. Trade Mooney for AD Mitchell. I'd rather have Mooney. You can get more for Mooney. Nico might be doable, but doubtful for AJ Brown. I'd give it a shot. Swing for the fences, man. Worst they can say is no. Or maybe they say, hell, add this guy and it's some whatever. You never know unless you start having the conversation. Dell, Olave, Sermon. If Slayton is a start, would you drop Sermon or Wicks to get him? So starting 3 between these guys, I would start Tank Dell, Ray Davis, and Darius Slayton, which means I would need to drop crap. Alternative to this, start Dell, Sermon, and Slayton, and then drop Ray Davis. Because I think that James Cook is going to come back sooner than Jonathan Taylor, which makes Sermon a little bit more valuable. So I would just drop Ray Davis and then start Dell, Sermon, and Slayton. Because I don't really know if there's going to be all that much of a difference between Sermon and Ray Davis. So, but I think that Sermon has more startable weeks with JT out longer than James Cook. But I'm also fine starting Dontavian Wicks too. Hold on, let's see what Paulson says. Paulson has Dell ranked as flex 53. He has Olave ranked as flex 55. He has Sermon ranked as flex 52. So Sermon right now is the number one out of all. It would go Sermon, Olave, Sermon, Dell, Olave. Ray Davis is really down the list, but I don't think he updated that for Wicks is flex 65, so he's behind the other 3. Slayton is flex 62, so he's ahead of Wicks, but behind the other 3. So according to Paulson, he would go Dell, Olave, Sermon. I'm kind of worried about Olave. So I would probably play Dell, Olave, Wicks if you don't want to pick up Slayton. Or pick up Slayton in that. I would pick up Slayton and drop Ray Davis. Final answer. Done. I'm going back and forth. 12-man Dynasty Superflex traded Cook and Braylon Allen for McConkey and Devonta Smith and Achane for Rice straight up. Wow. Would you keep Debo or go after? I would. Oh, Debo, not Devonta. Right? I would 100% trade Debo Samuel for BTJ. I would flip Debo and McConkey for BTJ. And then getting Rashee Rice for Achane was fantastic. So I love that. Debo. Debo, not Devo. I think I'd rather hold on to Tyreek Hill for the upside of Tua coming back, and he's going to be past his bye week for this week. So you got to get past the bye week this week for Tyreek. You got one more week potentially without Tua, but then the upside if Tyreek comes back is massive. The upside if Tua comes back for Tyreek is massive. If you need the production now because you're like on the fringe and you're like, I can't lose a couple games with Tyreek being Tyreek, then that's fine. But I think I'd rather hold on to Tyreek for the upside of when Tua gets back to actually go and win the league. JSN for Godwin in a 25 second. I'll take Godwin in the second if you're competing. JSN if you're rebuilding. Sermon or Dowdle, I'll play. I hate star sets so much. I'll play Sermon. No, I'll play Dowdle. I went back to Dowdle. Because I think I trust the volume of Dowdle a little bit more. And then Ford or Hopkins, I'll play Jerome Ford there because Nick Chubb's not playing. So I'll play Ford. On a contender, are you waiting for Nico and Puka to return, or should I package them for something? I'm waiting on both of those guys to return. I'm not using either one of those guys to try to salvage anything. I'd rather pay lower level assets to replace production in the short term than use mortgage both those guys and then lose long-term dynasty value. Still taking BDJ there. I don't think Chase Brown is anything more than a handcuff long-term. So, yeah. What's your perspective of George Pickens? Who is best to trade him away for? I think Pickens is really good. I think he'll be a lot better with Russell Wilson. I don't really think that you could really trade him away for anything that's anything fantastic right now, just because he hasn't been uber productive. I mean, if you could trade him away for Brandon Ayuk, then sure. If you could trade him away for T. Higgins, then sure. If you could trade him away for Chris Godwin because you're competing, then sure. But like right now, he's wide receiver 32 on keep trade cut. And I don't really like anybody that's behind him that I would like. George Pickens or Tank Dell. Nah, but I still lean George Pickens if Russell Wilson comes in. That his upside is way higher than Tank Dell being the wide receiver 2 or 3 in that offense. Pickens or McLaurin. Pickens is 6 years younger. Pickens or Pittman. You're just, that's both quarterback issues. You're waiting on quarterbacks to change for both of them. And then after that, it's like Kupp and Adams and Diggs. It's all production guys. I think I just hold on to George Pickens because I feel like I'm just higher on him than what other people in the community seem like because I'm just waiting for Russell Wilson to play. MHJ in an early second for Godwin, the 101 and a 27 first. You know it's the 101. Like it's like 100% the 101, not like maybe possibly the 101. John, what's up, my man? Welcome in, welcome in. I'll come back to this one if YWL is still in here. Start 2. I will go Dowdle and Christian Kirk. 95% the 101. Okay, I'll sell Marvin Harrison. Then you get Ted McMillan. You get God. If you're competing, I think this makes sense to get Godwin. Yeah. And you get the extra 27 first on top of that, too. I'm fine with that. I Kirk and Dowdle, I said in this one, right? ETN or Dobbins in a trade if I'm getting desperate for. I'll take J.K. Dobbins there. Current wide receiver room is pretty stacked. Would you recommend I do to consolidate depth? Can you trade DJ Moore and Khalil Shakir and buy? I'm assuming you're competing, right? Because like Rashee Rice is the easy answer. But could you take DJ Moore and Shakir and buy BTJ? Could you take those two and buy Garrett Wilson? Could you buy Drake? You already have like Drake London. How can you get AJ Brown from this grouping with DJ Moore and Shakir or Odunze and Shakir or DJ Moore, Shakir and Wicks? If you're leaning into a retool, then I would explore, obviously DJ Moore, trading him for Rashee Rice for sure. Jaden Reed would be in that group too. Thank you, John. DJ Moore and Shakir for Jaden Reed. DJ Moore and Wicks for DK Metcalf. It's that grouping of guys. BTJ, Reed, Metcalf, Garrett Wilson, Drake London. You already have Drake London. So it's the other 4 are like the guys that how can you go after them? You already have Puka, so that's good too. Rashee Rice would be good if you can trade, if you can buy Rice, or Nico, if you can get up to Nico would be fun. I would do DJ Moore and Odunze for Nico if they want the production of that. Or if DJ Moore or Shakir gets you Nico, then that's great. Trade away Garrett Wilson and Drake London for Nico and Pickens. This one's easier. I'll take BTJ. I think I would keep London and Wilson. I think the drop from both those guys to Pickens is greater than the upgrade from both those guys to Nico. So I'll take Garrett Wilson and Drake London. Pickens, Ford, Hopkins, and my other guys, and Slayton and Wicks are available. Who do you like this week out of those guys? Slayton for sure. And I think it'd be Slayton and Pickens for me. If you can start both those guys. If you have to pick up Ford because of you're losing potentially B-Rob and you lost JT, you have to start a running back, then Ford is good. But Pickens and Slayton would be my top 2. Redraft PPR, where you need to start 3 running backs. Are you dropping Ray Davis or Benson for Warren? Well, if you need to start 3 running backs, Davis might be a start this week, John. I don't want to pick up. I'd rather not pick up Jalen Warren. That's the real answer. I'd rather leave Jalen Warren on the bench. Christian Kirk and Wicks for Worthy. I'm contending, but Wicks and Kirk are my wide receiver 6 and 7. I'm fine with doing this to then flip Xavier Worthy for something more. If this is a step ladder trade to then go from Kirk and Wicks to Worthy, then Worthy to something better than himself, then I would do that. That's how I would attack, because I don't really want Xavier Worthy on my team either. I'm kind of worried about him. I just traded away Richardson, Flacco, and Downs for May in 3 seconds. I don't mind it. I don't think it's terrible. I probably would have liked a first or something like that instead of 3 seconds, but where are we at? Pickens, Dobbins, Mooney. Sit 1 this week. I'll sit Pickens. Dowdle, Najee, Christian Kirk, Sermon. Need a running back. My running back would be so I'm sitting Najee of this group. Sit Najee Harris. Play the other 3. You don't think Warren has a chance to take over with how bad Najee's looked? I think that whole backfield sucks. So I don't know if there's really much upside in any of them. I mean, I'm fine to drop Ray Davis for Jalen Warren, but Ray Davis might also be an interesting start this week. What's the difference in value between Nico and Neighbors? If Nico was still playing, I would say Nico's ahead of Neighbors. But since Nico's out, then I would have Neighbors ahead of Nico just because Neighbors is playing. Or I guess he's not playing this week, but it's going to play sooner than Nico. I would say there's basically no difference between the two. If you have one of them, I would not add something to that player to get the other one. And if you're trying to buy either one of them, I would take Neighbors because he's younger, but really I just don't have a preference between the two whatsoever. They're both fantastic. I love Nico Collins so much. McLeod or Hutchinson this week? I'll start Ray against Carolina. Would you consider Zeke droppable in Dynasty? He's really close. The only thing that's making me think that he's not 100% droppable is what if Rico were to get hurt? That's like the only thing that's making me hold on to Zeke for a little bit. But I mean, if there's a better handcuff out there than Zeke, then I'm totally fine dropping him. 12-team PPR Dynasty trade. Josh Downs plus for Ayuk. Guy wants Downs and more, but what more? Anything less than a first would be great. Josh Downs in a second and a third. Anything less than a first, I would do that and go get Ayuk. Pickens, Dobbins, Mooney, sit 1. Pickens. Did I already answer that? Why do I feel like? Yeah, I'll sit Pickens. Deuce Vaughn season. That's fair. I think he's very close. I think it all depends on who the people are that are on your waivers to pick up if you want to drop Zeke or not. That would be my final answer. Because like I'm in a league where we have like 35 man rosters, and there's like nobody that I would drop Zeke for on waivers. But if you're like in a 22, 24, 25 man, there might be somebody out there. I offered Mahomes, Spears, JT, Sanders, and 201 for Love, Reed, and Kraft and got denied. How Mahomes has fallen. I don't know if that's so much Mahomes, but it might be. If they view Mahomes and Love semi-similarly, I'm 100% taking Reed and Kraft over the other grouping. So that might be more of your issue, John. It's not Mahomes versus Love, but it's Spears, JT, and a 201 for Reed and Kraft. How do you feel about Polk now that May is starting? I am optimistic, especially after last week. He played like every single snap, ran every single route. There was smoke during the offseason for Jalen Polk that was looking like really, really good. So hopefully if there's a connection between May and Jalen Polk, then I'm optimistic for Polk. That I think that he's a very interesting guy to stash or acquire in a trade if you can get a trade done before Sunday. No, I would not add a first to Downs. Even if it's a late first, I would not add a first to Downs for Ayuk. If it was Downs and the late first for Ayuk and a second, then I would do that. But just straight up Downs in the first for Ayuk, I would not do that. Drop Mark Andrews for Tyrone Tracy or Tyjae Spears. Oh. Are you starting either one of these guys this week? If you're not going to start either one of them, I would keep Mark Andrews. If you need to start, is Singletary out? I saw something flashed up about Singletary, but I didn't read it. Status up in the air. So if Tracy gets to start again this week and you need to start a running back, like I would start Tracy over Mark Andrews in a flex spot. So then I would be fine with that. But if you're just like, I want to see some depth, I would rather just hold on to Mark Andrews. Trade away Puka plus ETN for AJ Brown and JT. I would take AJ Brown and JT here for sure. Yeah, that's really easy. If Tracy starts again this week, Singletary's never getting his job back. I don't really know if Tyrone Tracy's any better than Singletary. How do you feel about Hutchinson getting more snaps than Dell? Is that something we should be worried about moving forward? I think that is again, I still think that Tank Dell is hurt or not 100% from the broken leg or ankle or whatever he had last year. Then he got shot. I still just don't think that Tank Dell is fully healthy. So I'm not really concerned about it. I don't think Xavier Hutchinson's all that good. He's definitely not better than Tank Dell. I think that's just kind of how the game went, I think. All right. Drop Mark Andrews is going to hurt my soul. See, that's why I'm fine with it. I agree with John. If you want to go get Tracy or if you want to go get Tyjae Spears, because if Pollard were to get hurt, Spears would be a really good pickup. But I just still can't believe we're at this point. Maybe that's where I am. I just can't believe that we're at this point with Mark Andrews. I mean, you definitely hold on to Kraft rather than Andrews for sure, but Tank is probably a year out like Pollard. Pollard has more burst this year than last. I 100% agree with this. And this is why I also don't like Isaiah Pacheco for the end of the year. Pacheco has like the same injury. So I'm not buying Isaiah Pacheco and being like, ooh, I got like a potential RB1 for the remainder of the year when he comes back. That's my fear with Pacheco. I think Tolbert has done enough to be the wide receiver 2 even when Cooks comes back. He's definitely more interesting to me than like a Michael Wilson or can't even think of any other wide receivers that would be of interest in there. Jacoby, I think Tolbert is more interesting dynasty-wise than Jacoby Myers. And yeah, same thing is happening to Andrews right now too. Andrews kind of had that same situation. I'll take Jaylen Warren over a third. But yeah, Tolbert is... I think Jalen Tolbert might be more interesting than Dontavian Wicks because there's just too many players in Green Bay. And if Tolbert's actually going to be the wide receiver 2 for a team that throws as much as Dallas does, and that's not changing, then I think Tolbert makes a lot of sense. Andrews is a hold, and Andrews is a hold, and honestly more of a buy. People have told me that they've been able to buy Mark Andrews for a third. People said that they used their contender 2025 second to buy Mark Andrews. He is 1,000% a buy in Dynasty right now. Jamie, welcome in, my man. Welcome. Seth with a $2 super chat with nothing in there. Thank you, Seth, for the $2. I'm watching to see if you have a message for that. Cat for life. What's up, my dude? Gibson or Schultz? Thoughts on Vidal? I have JK dropped. Gus Bus. I think Vidal is also droppable. And Gibson or Schultz, is that a start sit decision? Because I'd probably play Schultz over Gibson. Yeah. I wanted to support you for all your help. Last question, if you have time, I got offered BTJ for. Oh no. All right. If Ramondre is not going to play, then I will play Antonio Gibson over Dalton Schultz. There is that. Thank you, John. Is he officially out? Likely out. All right. I'll play Gibson then. I missed the Stevenson likely being out. All right, Seth. So I offer BTJ for Rasheed and Addison. Is that terribly low? I would take Rasheed Rice and Jordan Addison. If you are trying to move, if you're trying to still compete and you lost Rasheed Rice, I agree with John. I would not add Addison to go get BTJ. I would try to see. First of all, I probably wouldn't even be using Rasheed Rice as a way to recoup some points. But this is Rasheed Rice and Jordan Addison. That's just way too much value. Drop Muth or Keon Coleman for Zach Moss. I will drop Coleman for Moss for sure. Start two between Olave, Cooper, Deontay, Brian Thomas, Deontay, and BTJ. I'm terrified of Olave with Spencer Rattler. How optimistic are you with Andrews, and can you give me any hope about him? Because for me, Andrews Meter's still it's I want to blame the injury. I don't know if we'll see Mark Andrews come back to Mark Andrews at this point, but from a dynasty standpoint, my panic meter is at like a 2 or 3 for Mark Andrews from a dynasty next 1-2 years. For this year, it probably is an 8, 9, or 10 out of 10 for this year. But for dynasty, I'm not really worried about it. Benson or Mitchell? I'll take Trey Benson. Boom. Devonta Smith is officially available. That's good. Will Levis will start. Nice. All right. Nine and 1 in SFB. Let's go, dude. I think I'm 8-2. Am I 8-2? 106th overall. Oh, I'm 111th overall in scoring, dude. I dropped I think I dropped 230 points. I would have dropped like 250 if I played Tank Bigsby, but whatever. Judy, Pop, or Hunter Henry at flex if Stevenson is out. I'll go with no, I'll go with Jerry Judy. So, all right. Okay, so I do got to call it there. We're at the end of the questions anyway, and we have another stream going on in 30 minutes. Is Rico start for this week over guys like CERN? Yes. If Tracy's the starter, I'll play Tracy over Rico. I'm fine with that. But I would play Rico over Sermon and Ray Davis. All right, yes. As I was saying, we have another stream in 25 minutes now. It's going to be all about fixing a dynasty roster. I've got everything prepped for it. I got access to this league, so we have I have like actual trade proposals to be done. So it's going to be really, really fun, I think. So if anybody wants to join in and help give some suggestions to try to fix a roster, that's what we're going to be doing in 25 minutes, and we'll see how it goes. So, but appreciate you all for hanging out for the Friday afternoon live stream for the past 2 hours. If I didn't answer any of your questions, or if you have more follow-ups or anything like that, you can definitely drop a comment down in the replay of this video as if it was a normal YouTube comment, because I answer all of those too. So we can definitely continue conversations, or I can answer more questions after the fact, throughout the rest of the day, into the weekend, all that stuff. So appreciate all of you guys. Have a fantastic Friday. Have a fantastic weekend. I hope that you win all of your trade, or win all of your matchups this weekend, or lose them if you don't want to win because you're competing or you're going for the 101, you're rebuilding. So appreciate each and every one of you. I will catch you guys again next Friday, same time, 12 p.m. Eastern time, for another Friday afternoon stream. Peace.